Collecting, managing, and storing student information correctly is critical to the operation of a public charter school. The Charter School Board of Directors must make policies and procedures to ensure the student information is correctly collected, managed, and stored at all times. The functional use of student information could save a student from allergies life in a critical situation. It could prevent a student from uh, being released to an unauthorized person. Student information will determine whether the charter school receives its correct per pupil allocation of state, local, and federal education funding. Charter school boards of directors will need a plan for collecting, managing, and storing student information. Most student information is collected in-house. Some charter schools use external vendors to process certain information, for example, to bill local school districts to obtain funding or to report data in the principal's monthly report to the state agency. Typically, the first principal's monthly report is used to determine the state funding for the school year and should therefore be done correctly. Sometimes external vendors are used to complete this report. Student data starts with student registration for the school's lottery. Student registration forms request only the amount of data needed to qualify the student for the lottery. Once the student is accepted, student enrollment forms contain comprehensive requests for data such as medical, family, immunizations, authorizations, and other data. In most states, students are not officially enrolled in the school until they attend the first day. Most charter schools collect data in-house, but use external vendors to process data reports to the charter school authorizer or state education agency as required by the charter. The state agency uses the data submitted to determine funding allotments, determine compliance with civil rights laws, determine special funding for homeless students, immigrants, and migrant students, and English language learners. Student data is used to determine whether the school is entitled to Title I funding and free or reduced price lunch in the National School Lunch Program. If your school has a qualified student information management person who can manage the information, who has experience and who understands the process and has the qualifications, then you can certainly do it in-house in terms of processing your data and submitting it to the state. And many charter schools do process their own information and submit it to the state. Student information is subject to audit and review by the state education agency. It is imperative that charter schools maintain impeccable student records and observe all laws related to storage and security of student records. Student registration and lottery records should be properly stored and maintained. The registration and lottery records could become critical to address challenges to student enrollment decisions. Understanding rules regarding student information management is critical, and the charter school board must become educated on this subject and have an expert it can rely upon. For example, a student waiting list is published without names but use only lottery numbers. The lottery registration cannot ask anything that could result in discrimination in enrollment. Student with disability files are maintained separate and apart from regular student files and are subject to special rules. Requesting whether a student is a student with disabilities in the registration process is prohibited. It should not be a factor that could impact on whether the student is selected for enrollment. Each state has its own rules regarding how long student records are to be maintained after the student is no longer at your school. The board will need policies and procedures on who can access student records and what process must be followed to maintain proper security. Student information management is a specialized function and is the lifeblood of public schools. Charter school board members and charter school administrators need to obtain training and professional development regarding student information management. There is a host of requirements and reports that are required to be submitted to the state agency each year. You need to know what they are and ensure that they are timely submitted.